What's up, man? Now that I installed these new headlights, just wanted to check in with you and see how you're liking it. Nice. So I need new headlights. These are the headlights that I have, and they're starting to yellow. They're starting to have that film that a lot of headlights have after a few years. And I've had this for a pretty long time. This was one of the very first mods that I did on the Jeep, because as anyone knows who owns a Jeep JK with halogen lights, they're just notoriously bad. They're super dim, and it's one of the first things you're gonna want to swap out. And so I went with these. These are the Raxium Axials, and they've served me well. They're bright. It's just, to be honest, I've never really been happy with these. The low beams kind of come from this little like circle, half circle thing here and in the middle, but what that ends up doing is that it throws out this light that looks like a V pattern out of each light. So it's like this V pattern where it's super bright on the outsides but kind of dim in the middle, so you get these like two forky things. So I started mulling around as to what next headlight I'm gonna go with. I really wanted the KC Highlight Gravities that they make specifically for the Jeep. I think those are really nice. It's just they're a little bit out of my price range, but I did get recommended to another company by someone on Instagram, and I looked it up. Looks really good. They said they loved it, so I reached out to them and they sent me these. These are the HWStar Dragon Eyes headlights. They sent this to me for review and do a video, but on Amazon, 176 bucks. Not bad at all for those of you that need new headlights but don't want to spend a ton of money on the premium ones, knowing that you might get rid of the vehicle in a couple of years or it's just not in your budget. 176 bucks, not bad at all. The way I see it is this: if in 5 years these start to yellow as well, then we'll reassess this headlight situation again then. But for right now, they look good, they're different, and yeah, I think it'll just give a great upgrade to the Jeep. Let me show you how they look like. You get your two lights, some extension cables right here, one red, one yellow, and then you'll also get your two connectors. We'll go over these in just a bit as well. So like I said, they do look a lot different than what I've seen out there. I don't know, I like it. I like this kind of utilitarian-ish look, although my friend Woody said that it reminds him of that light that's in the middle of Iron Man's chest, and I told him shut up. You have these two circles up here. That's going to be your low beams. That's why they call them Dragon Eyes. Below that you got a bigger one that's going to be your high beams, and then all around you have your halos. They're going to be white for daytime running, and then they're going to be flashing amber for your turn signals. These are DOT approved. They each weigh about 6.28 pounds each, and color temp on these are 6,000 kelvins. Just for comparison, my Light Force off-road lights, those are at about 5,500 Kelvin. So this will be just a tad bit cooler than that. 5,500 is my preference, but 6,000 is not that far off. These are also IP67 waterproof rated, so that's good. It shouldn't have any kind of leaks in there. You want to look for IP67 always. But yeah, that's pretty much the light itself. We're gonna go ahead and get these installed and we'll see how they perform. First thing we need to do is remove the grill. Using a flathead screwdriver and a pry tool, remove the pop rivets holding your grill into place at the top. Use a screwdriver to pop the center portion up, and that will allow you to use the pry tool to remove the whole thing. Now you can reuse them, but I like to change them out. You can buy a 25 pack of pop rivets on Amazon for really cheap. Next, unplug the harnesses behind the fog lights on both sides of the vehicle. You do this by sliding the red tab towards you, which allows you to then pinch the gray tab and pull the harness off. Now from here, you should just be able to pull the entire grille assembly off the vehicle. Mine is a bit tougher though, because the wiring behind my winch is in the way. I don't necessarily have to remove the whole grille anyway. We just need to pop it out far enough to have access to the 4 bolts holding the headlight ring brackets in place. Once you remove those, you'll be able to take your headlights out. When you remove your existing headlight, you're going to see the wiring coming out of that headlight, and then you're going to see it attached to this harness here. You're not gonna need to reuse this harness because they give you brand new ones. So I would go with the new ones just in case these are already kind of bad. But you can get rid of that whole thing. You're gonna then take your new headlights, take the harness that it comes with, plug in the blue side to the green, and then the other end of this is going to plug into the vehicle where you took the old ones off. From that point, you're pretty much done. Headlights are going to work, you're good to go. But if you want these halos to turn on as your daytime running lights, or you want them to flash with your turn signal, then you're going to need to attach the 2 wires that it comes with as well. They give you a pair of extensions because this comes right out of the light, and then you can put the yellow to the green and the red to the red so that you can reach wherever it is we need to plug this into. But I'm not going to do that. I don't like plug connectors like this very much. They always find their way to popping out. So I'm gonna actually cut these off, and then I'm gonna use these butt connectors that have solder in them, and you basically just put it in, you heat shrink it, and then the solder inside melts. That's just a much tighter connection than heat shrink that whole thing so it's not coming apart. So let's talk about these 2 wires. The green one is for your turn signals. You just need to tap this into the turn signal wiring behind the turn signals that's underneath your headlights. Once you tap into that, every time you engage your turn signals, the amber halos will start to flash. The red one is your DRLs, or daytime running. You have 2 options on hooking this up. Option number 1, every time you turn the vehicle on, the halos will turn on and they just stay on. You don't have to do anything else, and they stay on as long as the vehicle is turned on. Option number 2, these will only turn on with a switch. Whether or not your vehicle is on, as soon as you flick that switch, most specifically that light switch next to your steering wheel, you put it into the first position, the halos will turn on. Now, if you're wanting your halo DRLs to turn on every time you turn the vehicle on, then you need to tap into your fuse box. You're going to want to tap into the accessory fuse of your fuse box, but as you can see, I already have wires going to that accessory fuse, so I don't want to add any more to it. But for those of you that want to run your DRLs that way, you basically just follow your fuse box from the passenger side, look for this big fuse up here, and then you're going to go about, it looks like 3 fuses in. Basically, wherever that last fuse is, 1 step behind that. You're gonna need to buy what's called a tap-a-fuse. It's one of these things. You wire it up to your DRL. So you take out the old fuse that was there, put it into the add-a-fuse, put a new fuse on there. So now you have 2 running on 1, and then you plug that right into there, and that'll turn your DRLs as soon as you turn on the vehicle. I, however, want control of my DRLs. I want to be the one to turn them on and off. Plus, what's good about that is if the vehicle is turned off, I can still turn those DRLs on if I wanted to. And to do that, I'm going to tap into the turn signal wiring. These turn signals are also marker lights. As you know, they usually stay on, and then when you engage your turn signal, they start to flash. So there's wiring back there for a constant light, and then it also has wiring back there for it to flash when you turn your turn signals on. In the harness, you're going to see 3 wires. You're going to see a black wire, which is your ground. The one in the middle is basically your DRL, so you're going to tap your DRL wire into that, and then the one at the very end, opposite of the black, that's going to be your turn signal, so you tap the turn signal wiring into that. Now, if you hook it up that way inside your vehicle, when you turn this lever to the first position, those halos will come on. And then if you turn it to the second position, then your headlights will come on. So that's how I'm hooking up my headlights. Let's go get it done. Here I'm just cutting back the loom around the headlight wiring to give me more contact area so I can extend those 2 accessory wires for my DRLs and turn signals. As I mentioned, I'm going to use those solder butt connectors. You can use the extension wires provided in the kit if you choose to do that, but I'm using my own 16 gauge wiring here. Don't forget to heat shrink over your connections to protect it. I'm also going to put a wire loom around the whole thing to keep the wires from rubbing on something and it gets cut or nicked. With the wires extended and protected, I'm going to feed those 2 accessory wires through the bucket and down into the area where my turn signal harnesses are. Then I'm going to plug the main headlight wire harness into the Jeep's light harness. I'm going to set the headlights into the cavity for now while I wire up the accessory wires for my turn signals and DRLs. Now moving down to where my turn signals are, I'm going to use wire taps to tap the DRL and turn signal wires into the appropriate wires in the harness that I mentioned earlier. I'll clean all this up and protect it all with some electrical tape and put everything back in place, but before I do, let's just test it out to make sure our connections are good. So not bad for sub $200 lights, am I right? Yeah, I'm digging it a lot. I love the look of it. I think it's just different than everyone else's. I also like that I now have halos on the Jeep. And when you turn these halos on and then I turn on the HTX2 LED surrounds around there, it just kind of vibes together. These kind of look like my HTX2s on the front, so it has that matching appeal. I also like that I got black. It just makes it a little bit more inconspicuous. This has a chrome option also, but I didn't want to go back to chrome anymore. I have this kind of dark theme going on in the front, so having a black version of this I think just makes it look a little bit better. I also like that startup sequence that it has. I just think it's a nice little touch. It's cute, it's adorable. And then finally, price point, sub 200 bucks. I mean, you can't go wrong. If in a couple of years, 4 or 5 years down the line, they do start to yellow out on you, or they're not functioning as well as they did in the beginning, well, I mean, yeah, you were out just 200 bucks. Now, I have been driving around with these headlights on for a few days now, and I do have a couple of nitpicky things. Number one, color temperature. I really prefer the 5500K color temperature range just because 5500 Kelvin basically mimics daylight, and that helps a lot if you've been driving for hours in the dark. You don't want your eyes to fatigue so quickly, and you want it to basically look as natural as you can get it. Like, you want to be able to see things as naturally as your eye would see things in the daytime. These are at 6000 Kelvin, which is not that far off from 5500, although it is starting to tiptoe into that ultra white kind of bluish light. And I know a lot of people are going to like that. They're going to say, oh, but it's so bright. Yeah, that's awesome. But then imagine driving like that for hours and you're seeing this ultra white bright light that's not really natural daylight. It might fatigue your eyes after a while. So just keep that in mind. Again, it's a nitpicking thing because it's not that far off, but you definitely don't ever want to go kind of above the 6000 range. Otherwise, it just starts to look too unnatural. Now, my second nitpicky thing is the throw. I wasn't expecting like the most perfect throw of light, considering these are more budget friendly. Whereas my light force, again, the HTX2s, if you turn those on, you'll see like the most perfect circle and the most perfect edges. Like, they knew exactly where they were focusing the light. But again, those are over $1,000 a pair, whereas these are sub $200. So when I got onto the street, I saw that the light would kind of stagger with this. So it would stop at one point and then continue on and then stop again. And then I thought, well, maybe that's just because I don't have my two lights adjusted. So I brought it back into my neighborhood. I lit it down the street, and then I tried to raise one of my lights to see if I can adjust it. But it seemed like the stagger would go with it. So now I realized that that staggering was coming from the one light. And I know that it's coming from these two Dragon Eyes right here, because there's that little gap in between those two projectors. It's kind of creating one past the other. It looked like light was just being thrown and it wasn't really specifically focused down the road. Now HWStar told me that those light patterns were actually done on purpose so that it could be DOT approved. They said the light patterns that are going to come out of your headlights are going to look like a staggered Z pattern. So one light is going to throw light that looks like this, and then your other light on the passenger side is going to also look like that. And they do that so that it doesn't blind oncoming traffic. The oncoming traffic will basically get this part, and then you're getting your major light through here, which I get it, but it started to bother me seeing it on the road where the light would stop here and then continue on and then stop again. And I knew that after a couple of hours of driving like that, it might start to bother me. And that also explains why when I lit it up against the wall, you kind of see this kind of staggery pattern like this, and it just stayed like that and kind of just weirded me out. I think what would have been cool though is if they designated specific headlights for each side. So maybe the driver's side would come up and do that, and then the passenger side would come up and do that. Then at least you'll have the majority of your lights right here in front of you, and then you have these so that it won't blind any kind of oncoming traffic. Now, do with that information as you wish. It just kind of took me by surprise because I've never seen lights do that before. Even with my old headlights, it didn't have that kind of a pattern, but I thought I would just let you know that that was done on purpose so that it could be DOT approved. These are definitely more you want some cool looking lights on your rig? Awesome. But as far as like that utility that you are dependent on really focused lights, then you're gonna probably have to spend on higher priced headlights or get off-road lights that can compensate for that. But what do you guys think? You think they're pretty good for sub $200 lights? Do you like them? In fact, if you like them, I'll give you a pair. Actually, I'll give you this pair. HWStar sent this to me for review, and when I opened it, one of the headlights had some minor scratches on it. There were like 3 scratches on there. From far away, you can't tell. You come close, you'll definitely be able to see it. But once you turn on your lights, you're never going to see it. But HWStar said, well, if you're going to do a video, we'll send you ones. I'll make sure that they're not scratched up, and I'll get you that. And I asked him, well, what do you want me to do with the ones you first sent me? And he's like, well, do a giveaway or something. So I'm going to give these away to one of you. There is a caveat. This is going to be a giveaway between YouTube and Instagram, and I wanted to do this solely on YouTube because I know a lot of you in the past have said that's not fair. I don't do Instagram and I follow and watch all your videos, and I can't agree more. But HWStar made a request that we kind of do this on Instagram also because they want to grow their numbers over there, and I can't blame them. They don't have much yet, so they would love for all of you guys to support them over there. So here's all you have to do. In the comments below, tell me a story about headlights. Like any experience you've ever had with headlights. It could be real or it could be made up. I don't care. And then at the end of your comment, write your Instagram handle so I know how to find you on Instagram. Then you need to go on Instagram and follow me, and then follow HWStar. Here's their handle right here. Follow both of us. If it all checks out, whoever has the funniest story about headlights, I'm going to send these out to you. Now this video launched on a Sunday, so I'm going to give it up until Wednesday for you guys to do your submissions. I'll pick a winner Wednesday night and I'll get in touch with you and let you know if you've won. But anyway, that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it useful. If you did, please make sure you smash. Actually, don't smash. Say hello to that like button, subscribe to our channel, click that notification bell so we can let you be aware of new videos when they come out, and if it moves you, support us on Patreon. It gives you access to all of our videos before everyone else, and when we do live streams, you get access to that as well. And as always, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Baptism Overland. My name is Asia Sampson, and I will see you next time. I mean, honestly, you can't even tell. You got like a scratch here, and a scratch here. I mean, these are the kind of scratches you would get going through a tight trail and getting slapped by branches.